The Philadelphia 76ers continue to underwhelm in the NBA. After the organization went through a long-term rebuild dubbed The Process, the 76ers have yet to correlate their collected talent into playoff success. The years of rebuilding as a lottery team and acquiring their franchise players have come and gone, and now the organization is at a crossroads on how to move forward in an Eastern Conference that is improving with each passing season. On paper, the 76ers have one of the most talented rosters in the association, with young star Ben Simmons, gifted forward Tobias Harris, sharpshooter Josh Richardson, savvy veteran Al Horford, all alongside one of the best big men in the league in Joel Embiid. Simmons and Embiid are the direct result of multiple losing seasons in a row, as the 76ers selected Simmons with the #1 pick in 2016 and Embiid with the 3rd pick in 2014. Both players started their career on the injury list, but have grown into two of the very best players in the NBA. Still, despite boasting one of the premier starting units in the league, year after year, the 76ers season ends prematurely in the postseason. After being inches away from a conference finals appearance last campaign, this past season was particularly painful, as the 76ers were heavy favorites to reign supreme in the East with a more well-balanced roster. But before we continue with the video, please remember that if you've enjoyed the video thus far and can't wait to see which moves the 76ers should make in order to fix their team, then please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and make sure to tell your friends and family about the journey we are about to embark on. Unfortunately, the squad underwent constant chemistry issues and played uninspiring basketball, resulting in them finishing just 6th in the conference. Adding insult to injury, they were then emphatically bounced out of the postseason in the first round at the hands of a bitter rival, the Boston Celtics. As a result, the first major offseason move happened swiftly, firing head coach Brett Brown after 7 years with the franchise. Brown failed to maximize the potential of his roster, and now talks about the roster moving forward are hot topics of discussion. It has been a big enough sample size to safely say something must change in order for the organization to realistically compete for a championship next season. General manager Elton Brand has his work cut out, but there are 3 bold moves the 76ers can make in order to improve next season. One of the many issues with the 76ers is their uninspiring and inconsistent playing style. With so many offensive weapons on the roster, it's hard to comprehend the long scoring droughts they experience far too often. An avenue they could explore is hiring recently departed Houston Rockets coach Mike D'Antoni, who has the pedigree of maximizing their offensive potential. D'Antoni was recently relieved of his duties immediately after the Los Angeles Lakers comprehensively eliminated the Rockets in the second round of the playoffs. He has already been linked with the 76ers for a good reason, as D'Antoni is one of the greatest offensive minds in NBA history. D'Antoni's offensive track record stems back to his coaching days with the Phoenix Suns, as D'Antoni revolutionized the pick-and-roll game between Steve Nash and Amare Stoudemire. It's been over a decade since then, and D'Antoni is still transforming the very fabric of offensive basketball through his unique coaching philosophies. The Rockets recently underwent an innovative small ball lineup in which no player was taller than 6'7", and the Rockets' offense also went a long way to phasing out the mid-range jump shot altogether, as they shot an unprecedented amount of 3-pointers per game. It's important to also keep in mind D'Antoni has received his fair share of criticism over the years, mostly due to the very little playoff success and his lack of adequate attention to defense. Nevertheless, he could still be just what the 76ers need in order to maximize their ability to put points on the board. With the caliber of offensive talent on their roster, the fit with D'Antoni makes sense. Of course, we must consider his past of disregarding the defensive side of the ball, but that could all change as the roster boasts Simmons, Embiid, Richardson, and Horford, all whom are regarded as elite defenders in the league when healthy. Despite being an all-star, the prospect of trading Ben Simmons has rapidly gained momentum as of late. Simmons is undeniably gifted, but his fit with the roster is uncomfortable at times. Due to the lack of genuine three-point shooting and the paint being clogged up by Embiid and Horford, Simmons' overall impact is affected. As a result, the Australian-born point guard does most of his damage in transition and affects the game in other areas such as rebounds, playmaking, and defense. If the 76ers were to trade Simmons, Simmons, there would be no shortage of suitors as he is a versatile, multi-skilled guard with incredible size and length. His basketball IQ is also desirable, as running an offense comes naturally to him. Trading him right now would be wise, as his stock around the league is the highest it's ever been after being named on the All-NBA third team and winning NBA first team All-Defense honors. By parting ways now, the 76ers would ensure they received a juicy trade package to fill out the rest of their roster or exchange him for another star. The prospect of trading Joel Embiid hasn't gained much traction, but it should. Embid was largely disappointing this past season, as his production fell from the previous year across the board. What's more interesting is Simmons took steps forward in his career, whereas Embid seemed to stand still and even regress slightly. We're accustomed to Embid dominating the competition, but he was consistently at the center of everything bad for the team. Poor production, lack of activity, lackluster effort, and flat-out disinterest at times were all things attached to Embid as the roster went up and down in consistency. Given the current NBA climate, it's understandable if the 76ers want to hold on to Embiid, as possessing a dominant center is becoming increasingly rare in the league. The NBA landscape is now a guard-driven league, which is why the prospect of keeping Embiid may be more appealing for a point of difference. Nevertheless, it cannot be ignored that the 76ers often looked better without pushing the ball, and surrounding him with shooting was often the most successful strategy this past campaign. Nevertheless, it cannot be ignored that the 76ers often looked better without Embiid on the floor this season. Allowing Simmons to increase the pace by pushing the ball and surrounding him with shooting was often the most successful strategy this past campaign. Considering Simmons still has an extremely high ceiling and room to grow, questions must be asked on whether or not Embiid is already the finished product. If this is the case, the 76ers should waste no time in moving Embiid whilst his trade value is still high and build around Simmons. Like the 76ers, there are numerous teams around the association that are looking to make big plans for this summer. The process is now over and it's time to shake up the roster.